Hello and welcome to a brand new podcast called He Says, She Says Film Reviews. This is going to be a film review podcast that looks at movies from both a male and female perspective. But to kick things off, let's take a look at who we are. So first of all, I'm Dave G. I've been reviewing movies now for about 26 years. I'm currently the treasurer of the Australian Film Critics Association and also a member of Presky in Europe and right around the world. I currently work for outlets including the Phuket News, Heavy Cinema, Subculture, and of course the Popcorn Conspiracy, where I'm sure a few of you will have known my work from. But joining me is Lee, and Lee is going to tell us a little bit about herself as well.
Hi, yes, so I am Lee. I have a background in welfare, actually, so caring for people, and I've been doing that for over 20 years. But on the side of welfare, my absolute passion is cinema. So I watch many movies and go to many screenings with my husband, and we talk film and we live film and we go to great big events and conferences, I just have a major passion for film.
So the first film we're going to take a look at is a brand new film that hit cinemas this week here in Australia, and it's called The Penitent Thief, and it's a new film from a first-time director called Lucas Miles. Now, Lucas Miles has got a bit of an interesting history. He is a pastor as well as a filmmaker, and he juggles his work in Hollywood with being a pastor of his church as well. Now, his debut feature film is The Penitent Thief, which is the story of two brothers led by Dismas, played by Jay Gioni, and they kind of coincide with the life of Jesus for a long time, because they were there at his birth when they were little kids who helped Mary and Joseph get into the stable, and then later in life they are actually the thieves who are crucified on the cross next to Jesus. This follows their life, and it follows how their life crisscrossed with the life of Jesus all the way through their lives, including showing how they become thieves and how they become outlaws. It is a story of forgiveness, it's a story about redemption, but it's also a story about revenge, because only one of the brothers is seeking forgiveness for the life that he has been living. So, Lee, I guess we'll start off with you. What was your general thoughts on The Penitent Thief after you watched it?
Well, I liked the storyline of watching the two young brothers, the two boys, seeing how they grew up and seeing how power and control of adults, death and trauma, and the need to survive shaped their life, and how two brothers ended up making different choices. You could see the difference between the characters and how they made conscious decisions to either make good choices or revengeful choices, and whether they seek forgiveness or revenge. I thought we could really connect with the character of Dismas. I really thought that you could see the humanity in him at times. You could see the struggles, and also of his brother. So there were beautiful storylines, but I felt that the storyline was a little bit disjointed in parts, and it was really let down a bit by some of the acting and visuals. Some of the visuals were really distracting in parts, and some of the special effects that were in there weren't necessary. You had, you've got a historic Bible time scene, and then CGI in it, which was not very good at times. The fighting scenes weren't very good either, and there was shaky handheld camera, which is one of my pet hates in film. Some people don't mind the handheld camera, but for me it just distracted me. The light wasn't very good in parts of the movie, and I just found my mind wandering in parts. And this is a movie that I really wanted to be great, because I have a faith background, and I wanted to be able to tell friends and family, go and see this film, it's amazing. But unfortunately there were just scenes that let it down, and so what I hoped to be an amazing film was more of a good film, not amazing.
Yeah, it was kind of weird with the shaky camera, because there was parts of this movie that actually looked very good, and it was kind of an up and down production. And I know in the past I've kind of been critical of a lot of Christian or religious films because I feel that there's always that one area of the film that lets it down, and I thought we were over it because the last couple of years we've actually seen some pretty good Christian films come out, including Risen, which I think for that year made my top 20 films for that year. But yeah, this one seems to go back to, like I've mentioned in the past with the Kendrick films, there's always that one thing that holds it back from being a great film, and with the Kendricks it's quite often they're overlong or the characters are unbelievable. In this case, though, it felt like there may have been reshoots or retakes on some parts of the film because it felt like the production was looking really good, and then all of a sudden it would go to a scene where it felt like they had to quickly shoot a scene, so they're using a handheld camera with the actors in front of it and having to get out of a space or something that they have hired. It was really weird. It was weird that the film at some times would look so good and then at other times looked that little bit dodgy. I agree with some of the fight sequences. There was a couple of times where it looked a little bit like a high school play, where it was like, okay, so you've got to grab this guy and stab him with a sword, but you've got to make it look like you're not getting stabby with a sword. It was kind of a little bit strange there as well. I guess the one thing that we can kind of take out of this, though, for me, my highlights were the fact that this director's actually got this movie made. Lucas Miles, if his IMDb biography is correct, he's only got very limited experience in Hollywood, but he's actually got this project off the ground, and dodgy CGI and a few of the other dodgy things aside, I think he actually could be a pretty good director. The other bit that I really liked about this movie was the acting of Jay Janone, who played Dismas. I thought he is, as an actor, this is a movie that really shows what he's capable of. He's always been an actor who's kind of had small parts in big films like The Departed, or he's kind of been the co-star of a B-grade action that's gone straight to DVD or something like that. I thought this was a movie that really showed that Giannone could be a really, really good actor in the future that could take that next step up. So I guess that's the next question I want to ask you. What did you think of the acting in this? You mentioned about the fight sequences being a little bit off. What did you think of the acting? Because there is a recognizable face in here as well with Kevin Sorbo playing King Herod. What did you think of the acting during the film?
Yeah, as you said, Kevin Sorbo, he is actually in a lot of faith-based films.
And he was Hercules and in Xena as well.
That's right. So, he was a very familiar face within the film, and his acting was quite good in it. I thought that Jay, who played Dismas, did a really good job as well. And as I said, you could connect with his character very well during the film. And look, I think the acting overall was okay, but there were some scenes where it was just a bit cringeworthy. There were definitely some scenes where the acting was a little bit poor. And as you said, I don't know if they've had a retake of some of it or what's happened there, but I just thought some of the acting was a little bit poor in that area.
I thought the interesting part was that two of the bigger name actors that were in it had small roles. Like Kevin Sorbo played King Herod, but he was only in a couple of scenes. The other recognizable actor that a lot of people would probably know is James Russo, who has been in a lot of movies since the early 90s, including My Private Idaho, and even right now he's in a film that a lot of people are watching on Netflix, Chronicle of a Serial Killer. But he again played a Roman soldier that was just after revenge with these thieves. So it was really interesting that the two biggest named actors in the film were in kind of smallish roles, but I guess that did give some of the lesser-known actors that little bit of a chance to shine, because I thought the acting of the two brothers were actually pretty good, and The character that plays, I think it was just Salt, the main thief, he almost had a little bit of a Russell Crowe-esque thing about him at times as well. So I think, look, this might be one of those movies where you kind of walk out of it thinking it's a little bit average, but on the plus side, I think this shows that we've got a new company there making faith-based films, and we've got a new director that might be kind of exciting to watch in the future because he is a pastor and a filmmaker.
I think too the two young boys that started off in the film as the two brothers, they did quite a good job, and yeah, I would say, some good future actors there.
Yeah, definitely. And it'll be interesting to see what this company does in the future, because I kind of liked the idea that they haven't just made an Easter film or something like that. They've actually made a film that it's got a little bit of creative license, of course, because if you go back and read the Bible, you don't actually know much about the thieves except they pop up at Jesus' crucifixion. So I kind of like the fact that they've taken a little bit of creative license and kind of given these two characters a little bit of a backstory, but also got their point across as well that they were trying to make with this film. So I think that's probably the big plus with the film at the end of the day.
Yeah, it definitely makes you look more into what the characters' lives would have been, because these are historical characters. They were real in Bible times, so it makes you wonder more about what their life might have been like, and what led them to become the way that they were, what led them to become on the cross next to Jesus. And I think it's always good to broaden your mindset. It's definitely not the story. It's partly made up, but at the same time it makes you think, and I think it's really great to broaden your mind.
So I guess to sum up, what are you going to give this film out of 5?
I think I will give it 2.5 out of 5. I honestly think that, in the future, there's so much potential for these movies, but for me, just the shaky camera and some of the camera work for me just distracted so much, and I wish it didn't, because I really wanted to really just love the film. And as you said, the concepts are there and the creativity is there, but the camera work for me just put me off a little, and I found my mind wandering, which is quite rare for me in a movie.
Yeah, I'm going to give it 2.5 out of 5 as well. I think there's an exciting future ahead for this director, and also for some of the actors in it. I'm still a little bit confused at how those shots got in there that looks really bad. They're the kind of things that happened when I was at film school on our first couple of films that we made, where you suddenly realize when you got to the edit suite that you didn't have a great shot or something like that. But it certainly shouldn't be happening with a film that's going into cinemas in 2021. So we both gave The Penitent Thief 2.5 out of 5. Go along, check it out, see what you think as well. We would love to know your thoughts, of course, on our Facebook page of what you thought of the film. But for now, I've been Dave G.
And I've been Lee G.
And we'll be back soon with another episode of He Says, She Says Film Reviews.